This is the primal scream of a dying regime.
Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Tuesday, 21 July, year of our Lord 2026. The world is about choices, opportunity costs, what you could be doing, except you're taking another path. I think that's what the real decisions are here. We have two items the president ran on and the president is known for. One is mass deportations to end the invasion on our southern border. He did that magnificently in the first 30, 60 days of his presidency, second term. Then it was the mass deportations, which has, 2/3 to 70, depending on how you ask the question, anywhere from 2/3 to 80% support of the American people. Also, the basics for the voter fraud in this country, which is voluminous, voter ID, other common sense measures, another 70, 75, 80%. In a world where 51% or a couple hundred votes over 50% brings victory, these are overwhelming support. I believe you're going to see, how do I say this? Polling mathematics over the next few days that show even the president's most staunch supporters, of which War Room is, we believe, I think, the strongest apparatus for supporting the president through thick and thin. That you're going to see polling come out to show that the MAGAs sitting there going, hey, we got to prioritize things. And endless wars in the Middle East, eternal wars in the Middle East are not a priority, not at this time. Natalie G. Winters, as usual, you do the best investigative reporting out there. You've been quite engaged in this whole situation with one of your topics for years of the Chinese Communist Party and its infiltration everywhere in the country. You've got a great report up on Substack. What is that? And then we got a couple of clips I want you to tee up to kick this thing off.
Sure. Well, we'll start small and then we'll broaden it out to basically every mainstream media organization that you include in the cold opens for this show. But people may recall that David Rhode seems to have been sort of the MS Now, MSNBC hatchet man for President Trump's speech about Chinese election interference. He really took issue with the idea that China was involved in any capacity with our elections, let alone influencing this country in a negative way. Now, what is so interesting about our, intellectual and I'm sure moral better David Rhode, who loves to lecture us about what this show is doing to democracy, is that David Rhode actually has a history of collaborating with the Chinese Communist Party. Now, to be specific, this is not just some group that if you trace it back by, 7 different iterations, it's tangentially linked to the Chinese Communist Party. This is a group called the China-United States Exchange Foundation that is the tip of the spear of explicitly the Chinese Communist Party's propaganda and espionage operations here in the United States, part of what's called the United Front Work Department, that U.S. authorities have even flagged as working to, quote, co-opt and neutralize opposition to the Chinese Communist Party in Western countries, particularly America. And the foremost tactic that QSEF used, which War Room diehards have probably seen me on this show now, Steve, I think it's going on 5 years since I broke the story of how QSEF takes these Western journalists, we'll get into all the outlets involved after we play the clip, but takes them on trips to China. Now, most of the time, these trips are subsidized. They're paid for by the Chinese Communist Party. And in exchange, you can see in the FARA filings that are very hard to access, they're obscured, that these Western lobbyists were connecting this Chinese Communist Party influence group with American journalists that they thought they could get favorable coverage from because they would, quote, disseminate positive messages to their audience about the Chinese Communist Party. Nothing that I'm telling you is hyperbolic. These are direct quotes from the Foreign Agent Registration Act. And believe it or not, now you might be a little difficult believing it because conveniently the article where it's exposed that David Rhode went to China on one of these trips is actually deleted. But luckily in the war room, I know we're a bunch of rubes that don't understand how democracy works, but we can access archived articles. And you can see that he proudly says that he went to China, quote, 4 other journalists and myself are visiting China this week on a trip organized by the China United States Exchange Foundation. He describes the organization, his words, not mine, as run by businessmen with close ties to the Chinese government. He goes on throughout this piece praising the Chinese Communist Party. This is a direct quote. Quote, Americans should accept that large-scale manufacturing will never return to the United States. He praises the Chinese state for developing their economy, compares and contrasts it to Americans, our work ethic, and literally says that the way out of our economic catastrophe is more partnership with the Chinese Communist Party and, quote, less ideological babble in Washington. Now, I want to play a clip just to really contextualize this to show you why it's so ridiculous that this is the, MS Now point person to be saying President Trump is an absolute lunatic for saying there's Chinese involvement, not just in our elections, but in our political system at large, because this guy literally is working with their propaganda organizations. But just look at how he chastises our movement, this show, right? Everybody who didn't believe that Russia was capable of influencing elections, for destroying democracy. Meanwhile, this guy is literally on the take, not just from some loosely, pro-China, pro-America organization, an organization that not just should be sanctioned, but the lobbyists who worked for them honestly are guilty of treason, literally spreading and deceiving Americans as we speak with pro-Chinese Communist Party messages. This is who's lecturing us. Let's roll the clip.
What do you think our adversaries, China, Russia, Iran, how do they read a move like this? They cannot be taking Bill Pulte particularly seriously.
No, China's thrilled. And China is our main rival here in terms of just AI and all the sophisticated ways that spying is going to be conducted in the future. So it's a win for them. And then for Vladimir Putin or Iran, it's just more chaos and more of a distraction in terms of, a weak Washington where the president is dividing everyone. And look, and we talked about it earlier on the previous hour, but my real concern is about what Bill Pulte will do in terms of the elections this fall. Tulsi Gabbard, before she resigned, had gone down and seized voting records in Fulton County, carried out investigations in other states to prove the president's false claims of 2020 election fraud. And now you have Roger Stone pushing Bill Pulte. And, there's real concerns among Democrats that he'll somehow claim to have intelligence and try to stop voting in blue areas in key states, and let's say Georgia or Texas in terms of Senate races, or after the vote claim it's all been hacked, that another election was stolen. And that's more of a distraction. That kind of division in this country just helps our foreign rivals. So it's, we'll see if he stays in his position and what the Democrats do.
I want to play this. So he's in narrative warfare. He's ahead of it. That's over a month old, right? He's way ahead of. He already knows what they've done, and he's kind of trying to lay the groundwork. Well, there's nothing to see here, right? We used to call it Ben Smithing. Nothing to see here. This has been talked about before, correct?
Yeah, it's total narrative warfare. I think there's probably some weird admission of guilt. That's why he's like, oh, people who play influence games with Chinese and the Russians, they're guilty of division. Well, maybe look in the mirror, David. But that's the point, right? It's to dismiss anything that meaningfully criticizes or points out Chinese Communist Party intrusion, infiltration, invasion in this country as this right-wing crackpot conspiracy that could only be uncovered by someone who's, so ill-equipped and just, out to lunch as Bill Pulte. It's like the perfect way to sort of dismiss any real meaningful discussion of CCP invasion here. I mean, it's basically kinetic if you look at the border under Joe Biden. But Steve, too, I mean, I also think that there's this idea that, when the right talks about, which, by the way, it's not all of the right, there's only certain outlets that are actually willing to do it because so many are on the take. But when you talk about Chinese influence in the United States, this isn't like some random thing. Oh, they just put some random spouse on the payroll. I mean, yes, that happens, but it's all by design. I mean, take the media pay for play operation, of which David Rhode is just one of many. By the way, the identities of the actual journalists who have taken these trips, taken these private dinners in exchange for, and I quote, favorable coverage, and to quote, disseminate positive messages to their audience about the Chinese Communist Party. This has been going on since 2009. The Chinese Communist Party retained US DC-based lobbyists to basically connect them with these journalists. The names of these journalists has never been subpoenaed by the DOJ. Nobody, not even Congress, has sent a letter to try to understand who these journalists were. And what the crazy part is that I was able to ascertain some of the names just from like deleted web pages and pulling it from the internet, people who somehow were tangentially related. Now, basically everything's been deleted. But these are big names. I'll be publishing the full list of the names that I have available probably tomorrow. But just if you look at this filing, this one filing, like I said, this has been going on for basically 2 decades now. This one lobbying firm literally connected the Chinese Communist Party, whether it was these trips to China in exchange for favorable coverage of the private dinners, with journalists from CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, MSNBC, Forbes, the Financial Times, Newsweek, Bloomberg, Reuters, ABC, The Economist, The Wall Street Journal, AFP, Time Magazine, LA Times, The Hill, BBC, and The Atlantic. And for anybody who's saying that this is still not going on or still not continuing, I was just looking at a new FARA filing that was, I think, about a month old from Media Links TV, which is the American shell company that a lot of these Chinese state media companies run their business through, like China Global Television Network, CCTV. They talk about having active commercial arrangements with Reuters, CNN, AFP, and AP that they just expanded in the last month. I mean, part of the critique here is just the borrowed boat strategy, right? We know they've been paying off to put these ads in these newspapers, so it looks like it's actual American news. It's actually just Chinese propaganda, but it's the broader payoff where someone like David Rhode, who you can see from the time he went to China, has literally used what he shouldn't have, his platform in American media, to push talking points that are basically indistinguishable from what the Chinese Communist Party would want him to say. Now, sure, and a decade ago, it was like, oh, let's praise China's economic development. Let's say that, we should have more joint ventures between US and Chinese companies. But now, isn't it interesting that the narratives that are being pushed are Bill Pulte's crazy, don't look into the election, anybody who wants to say there was foul play or nefarious activity when it comes to American voter rolls, you're crazy, President Trump's crazy. It really just shows you an evolution of that information warfare. And just remember, PRC influence is radioactive. Once you go CCP, you don't go back, not just because they've compromised you, but if you're willing to sell out your country and be a traitor for God knows how much money, probably a few $1,000, though the Chinese, I guess, doing probably a little higher, maybe not as high as Israel. But it tells you about what kind of people these people are. And they're not America first, they're traitors. And for the love of God, could the DOJ please, someone, subpoena the names of the American journalists that worked with these lobbying firms to go to China literally in exchange for pushing propaganda against the American people. It is a clear-cut case if you want to prove that President Trump has been the target, which he has, of Chinese subsidized propaganda.
Okay, Natalie, I need you to hang around. We're going to try to juggle a few balls here. There's a major development today under our former contributor, Scott Besson, Secretary of Treasury, about the IRS really cracking down on payments to people. The head of the IRS is going to join us. I need you to stick around. We're going to juggle also. The president of Lebanon has now, I think, arrived at the Oval Office. There could be a bilat at any second. If the president decides to say a few words, we're going to cut live to the Oval Office. In fact, we're right there. We're going to cut live to the Oval Office right now. Let's go.
Numerous occasions through representatives, and the relationship is very good. I think that Lebanon has been a very mistreated country for a long period of time. It's an amazing group of people, professors, doctors, lawyers, great intellects, and it's been hit hard for many, many decades, really. It's been hit very, very hard. And yet I have people that live in Lebanon, people that are parents of friends of mine, many cases, and they would never leave. They would not leave under any circumstance. They love it. They love the country, and it's probably a dangerous place in a lot of ways, but they live in areas, they say, we hear bombs going off all the time, but we want to live in Lebanon. They love the country. Very smart people, very successful people, and they live there. But it's been a country of great intellect, great intellectuals. They still love it. They want to be there, and we're going to help it. We're going to help it a lot. So it's an honor to have the president and your representatives here. We've already met a couple of times, and we've had some good meetings. And we are going to solve a lot of problems. We've already solved some of them for Lebanon. As you know, there's a Hezbollah problem, but we've done some things that I think the world will take notice. Again, it's been a very badly treated place and country, and we're going to have it properly treated and treated with respect that it deserves. And Mr. President, it's an honor having you. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you
I've
very
been
much.
looking forward to this visit for a long time.
Thank you very
Meeting
much.
such a great president like yourself.
That's a very nice thing. See, he knows how to get to me. He knows. He can have anything. Now he can have anything. Would you like to say something?
Now, really, I would like to thank President Trump, really, and his team for the historic visit and for the historic achievement that we did together by signing the framework with the ultimate objective of ending the state of hostility between Lebanon and Israel forever. I think, Mr. President, this will be your legacy. Together, we'll be able to achieve this objective. It's about time for Lebanon and for the whole region to be stable and secure. And I know your vision is peace, your vision is stability, and I think my vision coincides with your vision. And together, I think we will be able to achieve and to score success in that regard.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. And you have tremendous spirit on your side. You have people that love that country, and they're going to make it work.
We got to make it work.
Right. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, Lebanon, I have two questions, one for you. President Trump, as you work to expand the Abraham Accords, Lebanon still enforces a 1955 law criminalizing contact with Israel for over 70 years. You previously stated you would push Lebanon on this issue. And there is some people still going to prison last month. So did you raise it you will raise it with President Trump today?
Well, the Abraham Accords have been, I think, a tremendous success. I think you're going to see a lot of countries joining pretty soon. As you know, we have our original group, and it's so successful for them. Economically successful. It's been nobody left, even during this time of conflict. So, no, I think Lebanon has a very important place.
What is your level of concern of a blockade of the Red Sea by the Houthi rebels, opening up another front in the war?
This is what happens. So far, it hasn't happened. It might happen. But we take care of things. If something like that happens, we take care of it. You know, we've done that with the Houthis before, and we haven't heard from them in a while since we did what we did originally. It was about 45 days of very powerful action we took against the Houthis. And we've had no problem with the Houthis. They've had no problem with us for a long period of time, including during this conflict. I think that if there is something like that, we'll just have to take care of business.
The Speaker of the Lebanese Parliament rejected the agreement between Lebanon and Israel and he said it's a sedition. It's going to cause civil war. He's the Speaker of the Lebanese Parliament, and he speaks for Hezbollah. He's Hezbollah's big brother. What do you have to say about that?
Well, maybe I'll let you speak to that.
Actually, the framework doesn't require the endorsement of the Parliament. Okay, it's part of our constitution. It's a prerogative of the president, and we are committed to it. And I think the Speaker of the Parliament is really wants to see the end of this war. He's from the south, and he knows he did his best to rebuild the south. But unfortunately, the south being destroyed in front of his eyes. So he's actually supportive of what we are doing, but we need to be careful. His position as a speaker and as a leader of the Shia community, we have to understand how critical is his position. But I can tell you that Speaker Berry is a man of state. He's supportive of what we are doing, and he's supportive of ending the state of hostility, ending the war once for all.
I think when he sees, because I've heard that, he's a good person, good man, and when he sees the progress made, I'm sure he's going to come on.
From NCI TV from Lebanon. I have two questions, please. When will the Israeli army fully withdraw from Lebanon? Is there a clear timeline for that? And last question, please. Last week you met with the Iraqi Prime Minister and discussed him or described him as handsome and saying he could become one of the best leaders in the Middle East. How you describe?
Which one are we talking about?
The Iraqi Prime Minister. Yes. How you describe President?
Well, I'd say he's handsome also, and I think he could become one of the most important leaders in the Middle East, actually, if we do this, because they've been trying to do this for decades, right? Decades and decades. So if I made that statement about somebody else, I would put him in the same category.
When the Israeli army withdraw from Lebanon, is there a clear timeline for that?
They're in the process of doing that. They're in the process of redeploying to other sections. And again, they get along very well. That was a great agreement they signed with Lebanon. And they're redeploying.
Mr. President, the Lebanese army needs help, and the United States said that it's very important for the Lebanese army to take over the villages that Hezbollah withdrew from. How are you going to help him, and how the CENTCOM is going to be
speaking
involved
about that today.
Ensure that he will be in the
We'll
south.
be speaking about that today with your president, and we have some very concrete plans already in store for that, with others going in and helping. But they're also becoming much more self-sufficient. And we will be speaking about that. That's one of the subjects we're going to be talking about.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. My question is, the Lebanese army said today that Israeli forces opened fire in proximity to the Lebanese trying to deploy in one of these pilot zones. This is day 2 of the pilot zones. Are you prepared to take any additional steps to put pressure on Israel to withdraw, which I believe President Aoun is planning to ask you?
Well, I just heard about that before this conference just happened, and we'll be looking at that, yeah.
Mr. President, there are no signs that Iran is ready to stop fighting. So what is the plan? Is the plan to just keep bombing until they give up?
There are no signs. Why, do you know something that I don't know?
Well, they continue to attack our allies and kill Americans.
You don't know what the dialogue is behind the scenes, that they want to meet desperately to try and end it because they're getting decimated. You don't get that when you listen to your fake station, but you don't know. You don't know anything.
So talks are
you know
still
something
possible,
that I don't know? Do you know something I don't know?
Well, tell us.
I will tell you, they want to desperately meet, and until they're ready to meet in a meaningful way, we have no interest in even.
Mr. President, are you planning on putting any pressure or consequences on China for what you announced about them meddling in the 2020 election?
Well, we're going to talk to them about it. It took place a long time ago. I think China is maybe a little bit different today than it was then. But look, they do things and we do things to them. I'll be honest. We do things to them too. It's not a one-way street. But we'll be talking to them. Yeah.
Mr. President, it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot, but the Border Patrol recorded 14 consecutive months, no releases at the southern border. This is something you talked a lot about on the campaign trail, that you couldn't run on the job that you did on the southern border. Do you feel similarly at this point in time with midterms, considering how well of a job you've done? What is the lesson to be learned about Border Patrol?
Well, thank you for that question. The fact is, and maybe it pertains a little bit with respect to you and borders and everything else, we had a border that was totally out of control. I probably won the election, at least partially, on the border, would you say? And the border now, we literally in 14 months, I think it came out this morning, actually, it was just announced, and in 14 months we had nobody coming through, zero people. I have to understand, millions came through, and we had 0 people come in illegally into our country. And that's made by people that happen to be Democrats, largely Democrats, the people that do those stats. And I'm sure they don't like saying it, but we really had virtually nobody coming in, and they actually say nobody, not even virtually. So it's amazing what's happened there, and very people talk about that anymore. You know, they don't like talking about that. They don't like talking about Venezuela, where we lost no people. I'll be going to Dover for something that I feel is it's a great honor for me to do it. These are people that want it, and they feel like I do, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Very simple. It's a very simple dictum. They cannot have a nuclear weapon, and they won't have. They're not going to. They have no chance of having a nuclear weapon. And as far as Iran is concerned, I'll let Pete maybe say a couple of words, but we are doing very well. We are degrading them at levels that nobody thought was possible. They're being degraded really so seriously. They did slip something through in Jordan, and if we had other operators, would not happened, unfortunately. But because we have the best equipment in the world, we've stopped almost everything. But when you let other people do your job, with the United States, we let other people do the job, and sometimes it doesn't work out so well. But we're going to be going and paying our respects at Dover. Pete, would you like to say just how we're doing, generally speaking?
Well, it'll be an honor as well to join you at Dover to recognize these incredible Americans who committed to the cause just like you are. Something no president's been willing to do. 47 years, they build up a conventional capability like the North Koreans did. Remember, that's how North Korea made their way to a bomb. So much weaponry that no one was willing to stand up to them. President Trump was, and it continues to this day. Iran's been given every opportunity to negotiate, to show that they're reasonable on the Strait of Hormuz. But if they're going to shoot at commercial shipping, then we're going to hit them, as the president said, 10 times harder, which every night we're degrading them further and further. And the president has all the options necessary. If they want to talk, they can talk. Otherwise, they can deal with the War Department, and we're prepared to do that.
The blockade is up and fully, it's, nobody gets through. Nobody gets through the blockade. It's like a steel wall.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yesterday, there was another attack on an ICE facility, this time in New York City. What, in your view, is prompting these attacks, and do you have a message for those who are attacking ICE?
You're talking about the fire that was set in front of the federal building? Well, this is what's happening with the people that they allowed to come into our country. They shouldn't have allowed them to come in. They shouldn't be here. They're radical lunatics, and I'm getting them out. We're getting them out at a pace. We've gotten rid of more than any other president. I read stories. They try and give you phony stats. I was with Tom Homan this morning. He'll give you the statistics if you want, but we're getting bad people out of our country at levels never seen before. There's never been a time when more bad people, and you take a look just here in Washington, we took out almost 5,000 hard-line, hardcore criminals, most of whom came in during the open border periods of the previous administration. An amazing statistic, and this is something that I hate to be talking about in front of the president of Lebanon, but he's got his problems and they're different problems, but we don't have any problems in Washington, D.C. We've wiped out about 92% of the crime, and we're going to get very close to, I believe we're going to get close to 100% of the crime. And if you take a look at this city and compare this to what it was 15, 16 months ago, this was a dangerous city. I don't know how, I better not compare it to Lebanon because I don't exactly have your stats, but it might have been Lebanon was safer. This was a dangerous city under the previous administration, Biden, and now it's a very safe city. There was an article that came out 2 days ago that Washington, D.C. has made the greatest progress of any city in the nation. Now, Memphis also, and New Orleans also. And if they would ask us for help in Chicago, we would turn that around so fast. If they'd ask us for help in New York, we would turn that around so fast. Los Angeles, we would turn that around so fast. But the stat that's so amazing is that 2% of the people create 91% of the crime. Think of that. It's a great stat. Because if it was 70% of the people, that's a problem. If it was 20%, 2% of the people create 91% of the crime. Think of that. 2% of the people, you can handle that easily. So Washington, D.C. is now one of the hottest cities in the country. We have the hottest country in the world. But Washington is now hot. And I do have to say one other thing. We just had the World Cup, as you know very well. And it was the most successful World Cup ever. We didn't even have a protest. We had no crime. With all those events, was like having many, many Super Bowls. Each one was like a Super Bowl. And with all of that, we didn't have crime. We didn't have bedlam. everybody left here with a different opinion than what they read in the fake news. They love this country. I saw Scotland, I saw Norway, I saw all these countries. I mean, a level of love that nobody wanted to leave. And I just want to congratulate everybody, the job that we did, and all of us, everybody in this room, because everybody in this room was involved. The vice president was very much involved. It was amazing. I was with Johnny the other day. The job he did is great, but he said he never thought in a million years it could be so free of any difficulty. Think of it. We didn't even have a protest. Not only no crime. Now, there's a reason for all this, but part of it was that people just wanted to pull together. This country, for like a 4-week period, just pulled together. Really amazing. And I didn't want to say it before the final. I didn't want to say how well it was doing. I wanted to get the final up with, because you never know. It only takes a bad moment. But we just had the most successful World Cup in history. Did 5 times the business of any World Cup in history, and I can't wait to get him back, but I think we won't be able to get him for the next time.
Do you feel safe here, especially with this upcoming? Do you feel safe, especially considering the attempts on your life?
I feel safe. Why wouldn't I feel safe?
Mr. President, I'm Pedro Ghani from Al Jadid. Are you still speaking with Hezbollah? You said in previous interviews that you're speaking with Hezbollah.
I would say that, but I would speak to Hezbollah. Yeah. I speak to everybody. I'll speak to people that a lot of people think I shouldn't be speaking to, and things work out. I would speak to
Mr. President,
I would say this: if the president wanted me to speak to Hezbollah, you know, he's lived with Hezbollah for a long time. And if the president wanted me to speak to Hezbollah, I would. You know, I would.
Mr. President, follow up on Iran. If the Iranians do not make a deal, ultimately, how long will it take for you to stamp out their threats to the Strait and enable full shipping?
So if we left right now, it would take Iran 20, 25 years to rebuild. Okay? And we're not finished at all. But if we left right now, it would take them a long time, years to rebuild. But we're not leaving right now. So we've had a big impact on Iran. If we didn't do what I did with regard to 2 things, the Iran nuclear deal done by Barack Hussein Obama, I terminated that. If I didn't terminate it, you wouldn't have Israel right now, because they would have had a nuclear weapon years ago. And if we didn't do the B-2 bombers, knocking out the nuclear sites a year ago, one of the first things we did early in the administration, they would have a nuclear weapon, and you wouldn't have Israel, and in my opinion, you wouldn't have various other countries in the Middle East. They'd all be gone. They would have been terminated, extinguished. But I believe that by doing what we did, by terminating Iran, who's very evil people leading that country. You saw the number of protesters that they killed, 52,000 plus. I put a couple of them up today, young kids that kill them. They kill them like they're candy. It's crazy what they do. They treat them so badly. They're just killing people just at random. Over 52,000 people, and nobody talks about it. But if I didn't do the attack on their nuclear sites, or if I didn't terminate the Obama agreement with Iran, which was an absolute hit on having them get, that was a road to a nuclear weapon. And our deal will be a wall. It already is. They can't have a nuclear weapon right now. It would take them years to produce it. And we will absolutely attack the new site that they're talking about. I mean, how about these people? They're in this because of nuclear weapons, and they're trying to possibly reconstitute a site. We'll hit that site. Any site where they're even thinking about nuclear, we'll be hitting it very, very powerfully. Now, nobody knows, except the Iranians, the damage that we've done to them. We have done damage that will take them 20, 25 years to recover from. So if we left tomorrow, we had a big success. But we're not leaving tomorrow.
Their ability to threaten the Strait, though. That's the question.
there's a bill right now that's being considered that would allow illegal aliens who are working in farming to get legal status. Do you support that legislation?
I don't know about it. I'll take a look at it.
On your tariffs last night, the Canada tariffs. One, are those a response to the wildfires in?
No. That's separate. We're looking at that separately.
And what, is there anything Canada
It's only
can do?
response to the way they've treated our farmers and our people. Yeah. Canada's been very, very tough on us over the years, for many years, and no other president's done anything about it. I love Canada. I love the people of Canada. Many friends that live in Canada, but their leadership from Trudeau to the current leadership, I mean, in all fairness to them, they need us to survive. Without us, there's no way they can survive. So, but they've been very, very tough over a period of the last 50 years, actually.
Is there
Tony Murad at BCI TV from Lebanon. Do you still support Syria entering Lebanon to disarm Hezbollah?
You mean coming in and doing something with Hezbollah?
Yes.
Well, it's a concept, you know. We get along very well with the president of Syria. He's done a very good job. I wouldn't be surprised if this gentleman's going to do a job just like that. He's done a very good job. He's pulled Syria together. He would like to come in and do something with Hezbollah. You know, they've been fighting. He's been fighting Hezbollah for a long time. I think it'd be very effective. So it's something I think about.
On tariffs, you increased the tariffs on Canada yesterday. Can you say if you still expect to impose tariffs on the wildfire problem, and can you say when you might impose 301?
A lot of damage has been done. They're not managing their forests properly, and the wind has a tendency to blow right over New York City, right over, you saw Detroit, they had to close the whole place. Michigan was really affected. They had to close businesses for 4 days. It's very serious what they're doing, and they don't seem to be able to do anything about it. If they managed their forests, they wouldn't have the fires.
Do you believe that Iran is trying to impact the midterm elections by threatening the Strait of Hormuz?
They won't have any impact on me. I'm just going to do the right thing. I don't view it as, gee, we're having an election in a period of time. You know, everyone says, oh, I'm doing something before. No, the election, I can't think about that having to do with this. I think people are very impressed. I mean, we took over Venezuela. We now have a great relationship with Venezuela. We went to war with Venezuela, and the war ended in 1 day. And we have now an incredible relationship with Venezuela. We're taking out millions of barrels of oil. They're making more money now than they ever made before, ever. And we're making a lot of money. We paid for the war many times over with Venezuela. We lost nobody. We lost nobody. We didn't lose one. And it was a violent attack. As you know, we took out a man who was a very evil man. What he did was very evil, in many different ways. We took him out. But, you know, Venezuela, they said the same thing. When I did Venezuela, everyone said, because look at the drugs. Look at what they did, where they took all of their prisons. They opened up their prisons, and they have everybody in a prison come in through Biden's absolutely insane open borders policy. And we did that in 1 day. Think of it. And now we are working very closely with the administration, and we get along very well. Venezuela is a very happy place. I had a tragic incident with the, with the event that took place a couple of days ago, a week ago. What a terrible thing that was. They had a movement, a shifting of earth that was unbelievable. They've never seen anything like it. A lot of people were killed. So it's all unrelated. But by the way, we were the first ones there to help. We were there to help Venezuela. It was an earthquake, I guess you'd call it. It was a pretty massive earthquake. And we were able to do a lot of good. But they lost a lot of people. Venezuela, the people are so happy that we're there. The jobs, everything's happening. And we're taking out many, many times the money that we spent on the war. This one, Iran is bigger. It's a more complex situation, but we're probably doing equally as well if you look at the damage that's been done. And again, as I said to the young man that just posed the question over here, if we left today, it would take them decades to rebuild, and I don't believe they could ever rebuild. And honestly, they haven't seen anything yet. We've been nice. We've been nice.
Haley Bull with Scripps News. Thank you for the question. Do you believe that Iran has moved nuclear centrifuges into Pickaxe Mountain? And when you say we're not done yet, what is left to finish?
Well, I think that they may have. We don't have it on record. All we do is read the fake news. You know, we see the news is so wrong so many times. So, you know, maybe this one they have right, but it's okay. It doesn't mean anything unless they have the material. You're talking about the centrifuges. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything unless they have the material. They don't have. We follow the material. That's where the action is, and we'll be hitting that area probably pretty soon. And there's not a thing they can do about it. You know, normally I wouldn't say that. If I thought they could do something about it, I would never say that. But we'll be hitting that area pretty soon, and very heavily.
Two years ago during the campaign, I interviewed you and you told me on MTV Lebanon that the peace will happen in Lebanon. And every word you said during the interview, it's happening today. Like from the first day in the administration, you were working hard for peace. I've been here daily.
I understood Lebanon, and I understood how horribly Lebanon has been treated as a country. They've been like a whipping post. What's happened with Iran and with Hezbollah, but Lebanon's been treated very incredibly badly. And maybe I'm a little prejudiced in favor of Lebanon because I have so many Lebanese friends.
You're not at all.
Well, no, but there's so many Lebanese friends. And so I understand Lebanon. Tom Barrack is Lebanese, the ambassador.
The Lebanese army. President Trump, does the Lebanese army currently have the funding, equipment, and manpower necessary to implement the agreement? Or you are asking today President Trump for additional U.S. assistance today to do the job?
Definitely, with the support of President Trump, and we spoke on the phone, and I told him I need two things from you: political support and supporting of the LAF, which is the LAF is the most trusted institution in the country, and it has the most powerful weapon, which is the trust of the public. And like any armed forces in the world, the Lebanese armed forces is the backbone of security and stability. We need to support the LAF. The LAF maintain the country safe and stable. Without the LAF, everything will collapse. We don't want that. I think President Trump doesn't want that. In 1975, the first institution to collapse was the LAF. And as a result, we saw the emergence of many local militias, and the South was empty, allowing the Palestinians to roam the South and launch attack against Israel. We don't want to see that back again. All we're asking is keep supporting the LAF, and they know that the LAF is doing a great job, performing its duty to the fullest. I fully trust the LAF. I fully trust the leadership of the LAF.
And they did a great step forward with the recent signing with Israel. That was a big step.
Are you going to allow direct flight from America to Lebanon again? And Pedro
I can see that happening, absolutely.
Question for President Trump. Tony Rhode from NBC TV. So Ambassador Isa, the U.S. Ambassador to Lebanon, Michelle Isa, told me that the President Trump would not leave Washington empty-handed. What concrete outcomes will you bring back to Lebanon?
You'll find out. Thank you all very much. We're doing very well with Iran. We're doing unbelievably with the economy. We have investment. As you know, Toyota is coming in with the biggest plant, I understand, anywhere in the world. They're leaving Mexico. They're coming into our country. They're going to come into Texas, to be specific. We have more plants under construction now than at any time, by far, by many times. We have over $19.2 trillion being spent in America, and they're going to be opening up in a year and a half. And there has never been a time like this in America. Truly, it's the golden age of America. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Okay, you just saw the beginning of the bilat. Lebanese president's going to stay. I think, just to put it in a nutshell, if you look at the Middle East as a map, maybe I'll get a map for the afternoon show. You've, at least from the president's words, I think you're now expanded the war officially or technically with this involvement in Lebanon, which it sounds like the president's 100% supporting, but we'll see after this meeting. I think he's staying for lunch. After this meeting, the bilat, we'll get more of a feedback, but I think you've got that front of the war. Then now it looks like the president's supporting this deal or the structure of this signed agreement where Lebanon's going to take the responsibility for taking the arms of Hezbollah and having Hezbollah stand down. The United States will be obviously very involved in that. It sounds like the United States is the sponsor of this. I mean, that's what it means in so many words. And this was Marco Rubio's idea and construct. You also had, I think, some questions. Now, the president said they really haven't notified the United States, but you have this whole opening. At least the Houthis are saying publicly that they're going to do what the Iranians have done in the Strait of Hormuz. That they're going to actually close it and make sure that they're in charge of the gateway to the Suez Canal, and obviously anything from the Suez Canal that comes down all the way to this this very tight strait at the mouth of the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea. So and President Trump, once again, I think he said on the situation with the nuclear material, you're going to hear from us very quickly and something's going to happen. So he also said that they're begging him for a meeting, but once again, he doesn't know who he can deal with. This is something we've talked about from the very beginning. After you do a decapitation of their senior military, particularly the Revolutionary Guard, there's I think a big gap between, I don't know if there are any moderates, but some of the political leaders in the military, which like you've only gotten more hardcore because you've killed the senior command, and they're not bringing in Jeffersonian Democrats to train early on. You even have harder core. And the president, I think, once again said, who you even deal with. So there's outreach on that. And I want to know if we can put. I got some clips. Pull the Chinese Communist Party clip also about the voter integrity. To me, the most disturbing part of it was about the 2020 election, where he seemed like, well, I'm not going to do anything with China. They're going to meet. They've changed dramatically, and this is pretty compelling evidence of the Chinese Communist Party's involvement in manipulating voter data. Remember, they didn't buy these things commercially. They have a cyber unit that is constantly attacking cyber attacks. We know this. People have come up, even former FBI directors, saying it's one of the number one threats to the United States is the cyber attacks of these special military units of the People's Liberation Army that are attacking constantly our electrical grid, testing every aspect of infrastructure we have. In fact, there's this discussion of have they even embedded devices into some of the infrastructure we buy from China? Have they embedded those actually into the devices themselves to make it easier? We know, I think it's $600 billion a year. $600 billion a year of intellectual property is stolen, or they take $600 billion a year in intellectual property from our corporations. Now, the majority of this, and maybe even the vast majority of this, is given up by American companies because you have to get into mainland China as an American company or a company that's not Chinese or state-owned. You have to form a joint venture. Part of the joint venture is you have to put in your intellectual property to be able to monetize it, to make things. In China, you have to put it into a joint venture, which is kind of run by the state-owned industry you've got as a partner, or the financial entity you've got as a partner. And of course, they take that because they're not particularly innovative. They take that and then and produce it themselves and eventually compete with us. $600 billion a year. Multiple studies have proven that and backed it up. A big part of that, though, is cyber hacking by these elements. And now that they have AI and cyber combined, They're even more of a threat than they've ever been. The president, right there, just reporting on what he said, didn't seem to be particularly upset about it. Of which many of us, particularly the anti-CCP wing that does not want the CCP to have any involvement in U.S. elections or in U.S. life, American life, and they have viewed Donald Trump as the biggest threat to the established order that has been established with ever since Tiananmen Square when Bush 41 went there. Do I have hold the China, and I want to play the others. Let's play the other clips so you can see what just happened.
No, I think Lebanon has a very important place.
What is your level of concern of a blockade of the Red Sea by the Houthi rebels, opening up another front in the war?
See what happens. So far, it hasn't happened. Might happen. But we take care of things. If something like that happens, we take care of it. You know, we've done that with the Houthis before, and we haven't heard from them in a while since we did what we did originally. That was about 45 days of very powerful action we took against the Houthis. And we've had no problem with the Houthis. They've had no problem with us for a long period of time, including during this conflict. I think that if there is something like that, we'll just have to take care of business. Yeah.
Mr. President, there are no signs that Iran is ready to stop fighting. So what is the plan? Is the plan to just keep bombing until they give up?
There are no signs. Why, do you know something that I don't know?
Well, they continue to attack our allies and
You
kill
don't know
Americans.
what the dialogue is behind the scenes, that they want to meet desperately to try and end it because they're getting decimated. You don't get that when you listen to your fake station, but you don't know. You don't know anything.
So talks are
you know
still
something that I don't
possible,
know? Do you know something I don't know?
Well, tell us.
I will tell you, they want to desperately meet, and until they're ready to meet in a meaningful way, we have no interest in even.
So the final election.
Okay, let's go to Danielle Buck. We'll get to more of this at 5 o'clock, and we'll have the Chinese Communist Party. Danielle Buck, you're head of strategic partnerships and relationships coalitions over at Patriot Mobile. Tell us what you guys are working on. You're one of our favorite companies.
Well, thank you. You're one of our favorite too. Gosh, there is so much going on over here at Patriot Mobile. Just last night, I actually was in deep East Texas with a group of advocates just talking about the state of our country and the state of the conservative party and how we really can all work together, obviously, as we lead up for November. How do we each do our part, not just to stay energized and to stay unified, but also to bring the next 10 people that maybe feel a little disinterested or discouraged to go and vote. And so it's so exciting to be part of so many initiatives at Patriot Mobile and to have, honestly, the wind in our back of so many people behind us. Many of your listeners who are Patriot Mobile customers who are being reminded every month when they pay that cell phone bill with us that their money is going to fund the movement, right? Just last week, I had an opportunity to meet with one of our veteran organizations, and it was just so cool to hear about these veterans face to face saying, this organization helped change my life. I went and served my country. I fought. I lost limbs for our country. And thank you for helping me rebuild my life. Thank you for helping me be the father, the husband, the employee that I want to be through those organizations that we support, like Boot Campaign, Soldier Strong, Folds of Honor, and so many others. There's a new one we're actually working with called Mighty Oaks Foundation that actually brings in Christ as part of the solution for these veterans as they're struggling with their PTSD, anxiety, depression, marriage trouble, whatever. And so anyways, it is just so fun as my job is to get to work with all these groups. I think we have about 45 cause partners that we give money to. Last year, we gave over $3 million away. And this year, we're planning to give more. And that's only because of people at home like yourself who are watching this today who have your cell phone with Patriot Mobile. And many at home, and even last night, I had many people asking me, does it really make a difference? And I'm like, I promise you it does, because your $25 and your $50 and your hotspot with us, it all adds up. Your small business, it all adds up to really make meaningful work for people out there who are trying to save our country. I know that you've had Jenny Story on this program many times talking about our efforts here in Texas when it comes to fighting Islamification here, and also so many of our efforts in so many other areas. We talk a lot about the pro-life movement because it matters, right? Every single life is precious, but also I think we sometimes disregard the First Amendment and what's happening when it comes to the Supreme Court. Obviously, we've had some really interesting decisions come out last month, and how do we, as believers, as conservatives, stay strong? How do we support these organizations like Alliance Defending Freedom and First Liberty that are really doing that fight and representing us and that freedom that so many have fought for. Just this weekend, I don't know if you've had a chance to go see it, but I went and saw that Young Washington movie that came out. And it was such a reminder of being a patriot for me. Like, obviously, I work here at Patriot Mobile. I get to work with all these amazing organizations and be reminded of all the good. But just seeing the heart of George Washington and how it honestly, at the end of the day, went back to his love for Scripture and how that Scripture and how our founders wove that into the documents of founding this great nation 250 years ago, and how our country should be a beacon of hope and light to the entire world. And just watching that press conference as you were covering it earlier, and just thinking of that and thinking of my children. I have 3- and 6-year-old little boys at home, and what I want to teach them about America and how being a patriot is such an integral part of that. And I love that being at Patriot Mobile, we get to do that full circle. I get to bring them into what we do here. Just this coming weekend, I'm actually headed to Nashville to sponsor a veteran and first responder event in Nashville, and I get to bring my kids to show them, these are the men and women who have fought so hard, and we want to support them and stand beside them. We actually have a group of firefighters joining us and their spouses, and I can't wait for them to get to visit with my little boys just about what they do and serve every day. And so it is such a fun part of a family here at Patriot Mobile. And so if you're at home and you're listening to me talk and you're saying, yeah, I keep hearing about you guys, but I've never joined, you shouldn't wait any longer. You should call us today, 972-PATRIOT. Your phone will work exactly the same, I promise, or probably even better. And you get to support this amazing work that we're doing. I promise when you read our emails, when you see our posts on social media, you will be encouraged and you will be so glad that your cell phone company is supporting these amazing causes.
One more time, where do they go? Who do they talk to right now?
Sure, absolutely. Our phone number is 972-PATRIOT, or you can go on our website. Right there is the link, patriotmobile.com/Bannon. You can use your promo code and get a free month of service. And like I said, we have all 3 of the major networks. You can keep your phone. You can keep your phone number. We have Americans here in Texas and California that are happy and ready to speak to you and walk you through the whole process. It should only take you just about 20 minutes from your couch. So we would love to talk to you. We would love to get you switched over today. Don't wait any longer.
Fantastic. Danielle, great work over there. You guys, what do you have? 45 strategic partners right now. Just fantastic. Amazing.
And growing.
And growing.
Thanks.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
$3 million last year, even more this year. Incredible. Our other sponsor, Birch Gold, now more than ever. In fact, I think now the president's talked about Lebanon, I'm going to have to break down the math of what's it costing us. And we're the Arabs and writing big checks. Got to face reality. The physics of money. Go to birchgold.com. Promo code or /Bannon, not promo code, /Bannon, into the dollar empire. Get totally up to speed on what's going on and talk to Philip Patrick and the team. Also, Home Title Lock, they got this special for the 250th birthday of the nation. Go to HometitleLock.com, promo code Steve25, 25% off next 2 years coverage of $1 million triple lock protection. Charlie Kirk Show is next. I'm going to break down everything that's been going on this morning at 5 o'clock. See you then.